Well, we are almost at another weekend and a lot going on yet again as we have some answers to some wild questions we were wondering on past shows and earlier in the week. This is another episode of Mic'd Up here on Pittsburgh Sports Live and Pittsburgh Sports Now and all throughout the Now family of networks. Mic'd Up, of course, is presented by Martin Lawn Services. And I'm your host, Mike Onstie. That is Mike Bukovic. We are going to touch on Pitt, West Virginia, Penn State. Possible all three of these programs in college football could actually be good in the same year. It's been a while since that's occurred. Certainly some of these programs have been good, but rarely they've been good all three in the same year. We'll talk about thoughts about these three, especially Pitt, as Mike threw out some, I guess, controversial comments the last couple of days in terms of his opinions of what he expects out of the Pitt Panthers this year. The Pirates leading into now a trade deadline. They do end up with two All-Stars, but leading into the trade deadline, what should be done? We talked about this before, who will go, who will not, maybe what Charrington is going to do. And then also Devin Bush provided some answers to the questions we were wondering a couple shows ago. As he claims, and of course there's no way to definitively know this to be true because some think he's still trolling out there, and maybe he's trolling all of us. Maybe I've been fooled. But he claims he has been punished by the Steelers, at least has put on a 2-tweet mandate. But, of course, he let us know this with tweets, which took up multiple tweets. So then when he tweeted after that, he was over the 2-tweet mandate and claims he got fined. We'll see what he does today because it's a new day. New tweets allowed for Devin Bush today. We are in a new day, though, so two more out today. So we tweet during the show. Not many left throughout this day. Mike, as we get things started here, Pitt, West Virginia, and Penn State possibly could be good this year. Penn State certainly looking to rebound off of a struggling season a year ago. Last year, Penn State started so bad that it was historically bad. We're talking about a century bad for how poor that start was. Of course, tons of pressure on James Franklin. You could definitely say between Narduzzi, Neil Brown, and Franklin has the most pressure on him, I would say. I know Narduzzi still has some pressure as well, but they're looking at potentially a playoff appearance. They're looking at winning the conference with James Franklin. You bring him in there, and let's be real, out of these three, Penn State has the best chance usually to make a playoff. So they have pressure on him. They think they're going to be good and be back. WVU is building it up now. Great recruiting for Neil Brown. Could be a top 15. Some even think a top 10 recruiting class for WVU. Certainly their best in a decade and a half. They got a bowl victory last year. It's only year 3 for him, but they get to build things up. And Jared Dagey, as a veteran, certainly is that guy people are looking at. And then Pitt, they have Kenny Pickett back. It's going to be kind of a veteran team. Narduzzi has pressure on him. If Pickett plays well, could Pitt actually rebound? They could have been good last year. They laid some eggs and lost some games they shouldn't have lost. That's kind of been what Pitt does the last few years. But if you flip those games, Pitt would have been a great team just even a season ago. Could it be that kind of after a pandemic and after some of these teams struggled a year ago that we actually could fall into all three of these being a good team coming in next year? And even though we're not going to have the top 12 for the playoff, you'd figure for next year that maybe there's even a weird world in the next 3 years that if they make the top 12 a playoff team, we somehow could have all three of these vying for the playoff in the same year.
Yeah, I actually believe that. I'm not sure. I doubt that it's going to get to the level that it was in the 80s where West Virginia, Pitt, and Penn State were really top 25 teams nationally and really contenders. Like
they played each other too. That's the only thing that sucks. Penn State played each other.
But as far as where they were viewed nationally, it wasn't a courtesy top 25 appearance and nobody really believed in you. Those programs were legit back then. I don't know that it's going to get that good, but I do believe that finally, with the leadership of all three of these coaches, that these programs are back to being programs that are going to be top 25 teams weekly.
Could have all three in the rankings. That would be
good. That's what I mean. I believe that. Penn State, obviously, they have everything in place. It's just a matter of getting the guys to perform on the field, developing their players. I know their fan base is making a big deal about the recruiting class they have this year. But if But if you look at it, they do this every year. This is not something that's really,
Right.
unusual. It's a matter of them of doing it on the field now. They always get the kids.
They're a bit more of a national program, arguably, than Pitt and WVU.
Yeah, they're on a great streak right now. They're ranked number 3 in the country as far as recruiting. Right. But this is nothing new for them. If Pitt, West Virginia were number 3, now that's breaking news. Penn State, Penn State being up there, that's really nothing.
No.
Neil Brown is doing a hell of a job right now. Top 25.
Maybe underrated nationally, honestly.
Yeah, top 25. They have recruits coming in. They've already committed. They're going to be getting more. They got their quarterback. They got their 4-star running back. I believe they'll be getting a 4-star receiver. They're going to get players all over. The question is that talent going to be good enough to compete in the tough Big 12 against the big boys in the Big 12? It's going to be on paper. It's going to look good. Can you do it against Oklahoma and those guys?
And you figure those teams, because even though it sucked for West Virginia in a way, they were in year 2 of Neil Brown. It was a rebuilding year. The year prior, they didn't even make a bowl game. So getting into a bowl game, a quality bowl win, that was great for the program. But it was a year where the Big 12 teams were kind of down, certainly the elite teams. Oklahoma wasn't looking at a playoff, even though they normally have been. So that would have been the year to be good if you're going to have a year. So you figure those programs are back. So it's only going to get tougher.
Yeah, Texas is going to be back. Sarkisian will get players in there. So that's going to be the test for West Virginia. How good is it within their conference? And then Pitt, I know I wrote a commentary that I didn't expect yesterday. I didn't expect to get as much traffic as it did. But this fan base, I don't really get it. I've never really understood it.
They're one of the few in Pittsburgh. They don't want optimism. They don't want it.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. They don't want optimism. I say something positive about the coach, and they just, for whatever reason, him and the quarterback. I guess that's the way it is. They're the 2 biggest targets, but
sure.
I believe, and this is not, anyone that knows me knows that unlike some, media people, I don't say things just to say them to draw a reaction, to draw clicks, to be that's not who I am. I say what I believe, and I believe that Pitt is on the way to being relevant, and by relevant I mean 8-9 wins, top of the ACC.
I was going to ask to clarify exactly, maybe.
Yeah, I believe they're going to be a very solid, wherever you want to rank that, as far as are they going to be Clemson? No. But I believe they could be anywhere else. I believe they can be anywhere you want to put in that rank, just because of the recruiting. Recruiting takes time. People don't understand this. You need class after class after class, so that one class leaves, you have people that can back them up. And as I wrote yesterday, that's a sign to me that Pitt is back as far as relevancy, because they had 6 guys go to the NFL draft last year, and they had other guys like Paris Ford leave as free agents.
Right.
And their team is going to be just as strong next year, and they're not going to miss a beat. That's when you know that you're making some progress, is when you could lose quality players. And I believe Pitt is to that point now because of veteran and younger players. And now just a matter of Kenny Pickett and more importantly, Pat Narduzzi shutting people up so that the fan base don't continually say, well, they're good, but Kenny Pickett can't throw touchdowns, or Pat Narduzzi loses the close games. Until they do that, people or fans are always going to have the right to criticize them because they haven't proven it to that point.
Right. And going to what West Virginia is dealing with Oklahoma and Texas and Oklahoma State and even Texas Tech, maybe those programs being better than they were a year ago, you can make an argument Miami is going to be better than they were a year ago. There's people throwing the Miami hype train out there, what they're going to do early in the season. I'm not saying Miami's going to go win a national title, but if you're talking about below Clemson, Miami had that kind of roller coaster, got some hype, and then faded last year. Miami could be better than Pitt, possibly. Of course, Notre Dame's not in terms of the ACC, but they're playing that ACC schedule. So if you throw them in the mix, you figure Notre Dame could be a national program that could certainly cause some problems out there just based on the schedule, even though they're not vying for a conference title like they did last year. So yeah, Pitt, who knows? Pitt had some games they could have won last year, even with the team they had last year. I think in terms of Narduzzi, I at least understand fans criticizing because he has lost some games that he otherwise should have won, and it would have swung years. Certainly that Penn State game a couple years ago, I don't think fans are ever going to get over. They felt like Narduzzi's play calling at the end kind of ruined that game. And other games you figure just to lose, like Clemson. But I could see some criticism on Narduzzi. They're not going to get rid of him. I don't know what they would have better. But I think people do underrate Narduzzi as a recruiter. Because we've also talked about Neil Brown being a great head coach. Everybody thinks he's a great head coach. He did it at Troy, now doing it at WVU. Kind of built him up to a winning season only 2 years in. Kudos for him. But you got to do it recruiting-wise in order to be able to be there for a decade and be a successful program and get back to glory, like you mentioned, for the past of these programs. That's what you mentioned a show ago on what Neil Brown's doing so well now, but proving some doubters wrong. That could he recruit? He is recruiting very quickly into his tenure. Narduzzi's always been able to recruit. I don't know if he's ever won as much as people thought he should win, despite that division title a few years ago, but he's always been able to recruit. So that's a positive.
Well, one thing that
I think Kenny Pickett, though, has already proven people wrong. I think the Kenny Pickett hate is just completely asinine. He's not Dan Marino, but if you look at him for what he should be, without him, they'd be worse than what they were. He's had to basically allow himself to be killed at times and kind of do it all, throwing and running. We talked about at the end of last year that if we were advising Kenny Pickett, privately, we would say, you should come back. It'd make you better. It'd help your pro career. But if you're concerned about your health and maybe you got beat up too much, maybe you do leave because you kind of have done a lot in terms of physicality and he's been hurt a lot. So I think the Kenny Pickett hate is even more asinine than anything else.
Just real quick on a couple of those things which you just mentioned.
Yeah, no problem.
People with Pat Narduzzi, people got to understand that Pat Narduzzi, despite his age, wasn't a veteran head coach.
Yeah.
He was a coordinator for all.
Yeah, Brown had more experience before WVU.
Yeah, he was never a head coach. So, and a lot of times, many people do not get their first head coaching jobs in a Power 5 conference. I know people don't want to hear it, but it's a learning curve. He has to learn how to be a head coach. He learned how to be a defensive coordinator, and he's a pretty good one. He had to learn how to be a head coach. He had his hirings, everything. Mm-hmm. He had 6 years now. Now he finally, you have to make some hirings, your assistant coaches that maybe didn't work out. He's finally surrounded himself, I believe now, with his best coaching staff as far as assistants. And a head coach is only so good a lot of times with the people that are around him. And he has a really good assistant coaching staff around him. As far as Pickett, it's just stupid.
It really is. It's annoying.
I've defended him.
It actually annoys me.
Because all you have to do is look around. A quarterback, just as though a head coach is good with his assistants, when you're the quarterback and you don't have people around you, I don't care how good you are. You can't throw to yourself. Sure. You can't block for yourself. This year, Kenny Pickett, as I wrote yesterday, he is going to have the best supporting cast. If he doesn't do it this year and everyone's healthy, then you could throw some criticism at him. Now he finally has an NFL receiver in Jordan Addison. He has playmakers. He has an NFL tight end in Lucas Kroll, who was hurt all of last year.
And you hope Pickett's healthy too this year.
Yeah, exactly.
Last year he was not healthy.
He has all the parts around him now to succeed. He's with a coordinator for the first time in back-to-back years.
Yeah, that's really underrated. He's been in a coaching carousel. And again, This is not Dan Marino, who can make any coordinator look like amazing, look like a Hall of Famer. He needs some help, whether it be players and coaches, and it's just been a continuous cycle of players and coaches all around him. And again, despite what Neil Brown's doing, if Jared Dagey doesn't get it done, and he's been bumpy ride a little bit last year, I know they were friends and he mentored him when he was 12 years old, but if he doesn't get it done on the field, there's only so much you can do. So it does rely on the quarterback. And I think the benefit that why you can say maybe this year these programs could be better than you thought, Penn State always has that chance, but Pitt and West Virginia have veteran quarterbacks who've been progressing and now have help. So recruiting is a year or two away maybe to be really good. But when you got a veteran quarterback who is not going to get scared in certain environments because he's already done that and had that issue and now overcome it, that's a benefit. So that definitely is a benefit. So that's why there's a possibility. Just quickly, my only devil's advocate on Narduzzi, do you think the reason why Pitt fans don't want to give him rope and maybe criticize him just seemingly no matter what, even wins aren't good enough for them at times, even a couple of years ago, their division title wasn't good enough at times, is because they just don't like him personally? Like we've had examples where he kind of hasn't been honest to the media. He doesn't want to allow Alan Saunders can I'm sure tell you this. He doesn't want to make it easy in terms of covering at times. He makes some comments after games where he maybe does have a critical call go against him and doesn't really want to take ownership of that situation. Maybe that just rubs people the wrong way, even though on the field in terms of as.
No, I think it's a combination of, number one, fans just want to win. Pitt fans,
it's just
they're tired of being. This has been a revolving door as far as excuses and head coach. They just want to win.
I get that.
And the other thing is, they see, Dave Wanstead. I think there's a portion of the fan base that he sort of followed Wanstead, and there's still a lot of people out there.
Never should have been fired.
He should have been fired. He's a Pitt guy. People loved his personality.
Yeah.
There's a small portion of that, but the biggest thing is Pitt fans are just frustrated. They want to win. They're jealous of, they see other programs having success, probably, the team across the state, and they want to be that. They want to have a part. They want to, be able to brag on their program, and they haven't been able to do that. And I think that's whoever's going to be the head coach. Jeff Capel's getting that. They want to be proud of their program, and unfortunately for Pitt fans, that hasn't been able to happen for too many years.
Yeah, that's probably true. Because whether it's fair or not, and whether there's a process or not, you got to at least give time and you got to be reasonable with it. One thing that West Virginia fans have kind of done that I'm very, very surprised by, based on what you're saying there with Narduzzi and Pitt fans, they seemingly are giving Neil Brown time. The second he got there, the cupboard was bare. Dana Holgorsen had left. That was very controversial. Even when Dana Holgorsen was hanging 70 points in an Orange Bowl over Clemson, people were wanting him fired. Every single day, it was commentary on whether Holgorsen should be fired, should be let go, whether it's overrated, underrated. Quite frankly, Mike, I'm glad Dana Holgorsen's era came to an end because he was just flat out annoying. But Neil Brown being there he basically had to do the whole thing from scratch. If it took him 4 or 5 years, I don't think anyone could have been matched. So to do it in 2 or 3 years is ridiculous. He had to do it all over again, and fans are actually giving him time. I mean, maybe it's because of media and Shane Lyons are allowing time, and even fans calling it year 0 in Neil Brown's first year. That's incredible for a major program fan base to actually give that time and give a mulligan. So kudos to them for doing that. Yeah. I'm actually pleasantly surprised. Flipping gears though here, because we're going to talk a lot more of this, of course, coming up recruiting season right now, but we're going to get towards college football season in those games. We're not too far away, and we'll see.
58 days, Mike. 58 days.
58 days. There you go. And we'll also see when we get an official decision on the college football playoff expansion and when that actually would occur. And going into right now, what's going on, the Pirates right now are in the middle of their season. This is a team that, of course, is not a winning team right now. Brian Hayes busting out of a slump. A lot going on in terms of the pitching staff. Brian Reynolds hitting the cover off the ball. Jacob Stallings still hitting a game-leading home run just a day ago. And Brian Reynolds ended up becoming an all-star. Adam Frazier becoming an all-star. Cool for them with as bad as this team has been this year. And still figuring the face of the franchise for the future is Brian Hayes. Maybe Reynolds has now joined him. But with the trade deadline not too far away now, getting towards the All-Star game and then the trade deadline, what do the Pirates do for you? It's obviously going to be selling and looking to bring value back in, but there's been conversation so much recently about even do you keep Adam Frazier with his age? Very unlikely. Do you even try to move Brian Reynolds because of his value being where it is now? Jacob Stallings, I talked about in a post-game show a couple of days ago. Mike Persek of the PG actually thinks they should keep Jacob Stallings because of the pitching staff could actually plummet next year because he's kind of unsung and doing so much for the staff separate from hitting, but his age and value make him a certain way. And then, of course, the bullpen and different pitchers that probably are going to go, but what value do you need to get back?
I agree with Mike on that. The way I look at this, and I wanted to talk about this, was that I know this is a time where people talk about let's get rid of this guy, let's get rid of this guy. Yeah. One of the things that at baseball last night, and just the thing that I always hear from Pirate fans, and it's true, it's sort of like Pitt fans, is that they just never believe with the Nuttings. This is totally understandable.
A lot of these fans overlap. That's not maybe why we got a theme here.
They're sick of having guys traded, and they want to have guys that maybe show some promise. Why not invest in them instead of always talking about 3-4 years down the line. Fans don't want to hear that. And I was thinking about that. And there's some guys that I'd like to see. Guys that I would trade would be Frazier and Rodriguez. Those would be the only two guys that I would trade 100%. Other than that, it depends on what I'm getting. I know everyone is throwing out Tyler Anderson.
I was going to ask about him. Yes.
If I get a great offer for him, yes. But if it's just something just to trade him, he's a guy that, as we know, this team doesn't have a heck of a lot of pitching.
No. Do you think he can keep it up, though? That might be people thinking that he's more of a flash in the pan than Brubaker and some others.
I guess so, but he was a first-round pick.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Why not talk to him about signing an extension for a year or something? I'd sure like to go into next season with Tyler Anderson and Brubaker in my rotation, as opposed to taking the chance of going out there and having to try to sign another veteran guy that you have not understand. Now,
yeah, and that's not worked out pitching staff wise. Yeah, Trevor Craig.
Somebody gives you a really good offer, then you trade it, because you got to do what's best. But I wouldn't be looking to do that. And I agree with Mike about Jacob Stallings. They have no catching.
I was surprised when I heard that, honestly. Very few are saying that, but yeah.
Yeah, and despite how well we think Jacob Stallings is playing, and he is playing well, even at his peak, I don't believe that they would get an offer. Anything they would get would be deserved enough of trying to how to replace him.
Yeah, his value to the team.
His value to the team is greater than any AA or single A prospect that you're not going to be getting that anything more than that for Jacob Stallings.
Yeah, for an older catcher who is, there's no guarantee he's going to hit like this next year, and that's what teams would say in terms of bringing the value down.
Plus, he's sort of like I guarantee you, he's the face of the clubhouse.
He's the heart and soul of the team, if nothing else. If Hayes is the face, obviously. But, yeah, I think Jacob Stallings is the heart and soul of the team. And you can make an argument, this is what Mike was saying, that Mike, it's a smart man when you have a smart name like that, I guess. But is that Jacob Stallings' value – this is what teams in every sport should evaluate when they're thinking about moving a guy. Does the value he has to you outweigh his value out there, meaning that Jacob Stallings' value to you might even be greater than his value to other teams because of what he's doing with this pitching staff? When you're talking about Brubaker, Tyler Anderson, Yahari, we saw what Max Kranick did coming right up. Those pitchers, I don't want to take props away from them, but if you're arguing that all these pitchers have pitched better than anyone would have thought, maybe you're keeping some immediate debuts have been great, and that saved this team from having from a bad year to an atrocious year. Maybe that's also Jacob Stallings deserves some freaking credit for it going down. He's working with that staff every day, and he's working on the staff more than he's really working on hitting. His hitting's gravy, really.
Yeah, I could have said it better. That's exactly right. And for that reason, I would try to some of these guys you want to extend. I'm not talking about a 4 or 5 year extension, but try to sign some of these guys. I like the Ben Gamble pickup. I know people are throwing out there. Why trade him? For what purpose? You just got him. He's starting to look good. He looks like a perfect utility guy as far as somebody that's able to play first base, outfield. Why this thing of trading people right away? That's what the Pirates have to get out of their. Too many fans and media talk about this. No. Sign these guys. Frazier, you trade. His value is never going to be higher. He's never going to have a season like this again, ever. He's going to be just not going to happen. Right. So you get what you can get for him. Rodriguez, you don't need an all-star closer for a team that's only going to win 60 games. That's you need a closer 2-3 years from now.
Yeah, and you can get that again. Honestly.
Exactly, you can get that again. Stratton, one guy I probably would trade if somebody would give me some value because I just don't believe in him is Kyle Crick. He's too up and down for me. I think he had a bad year last year. He was performing well this year. If somebody thinks they can use him as a late inning guy, which a lot of teams now really need, there's been some injuries lately. I would be okay with trading Kyle Crick. I kind of like Stratton.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm not trading this whole roster just to keep getting minor league guys. So
they had some individuals. You got to almost, because people said, media said, everyone agreed on this, and nobody agrees on anything usually in Pittsburgh sports. Fans, media, team all agreed before this year that wins and losses would not be how you would evaluate the team, because nobody thought they were going to go ahead and win the Penn. And even people that being the most optimistic early in the year knew that it was going to be hard to win this year. Very, very young, and it just wasn't time yet. So if that's the case, don't look at the record, look at the individual performances. And for a very bad team, the Pirates have had some individuals actually play really well. Yeah. You can't remember too many times throughout baseball history where you're looking at 2 all-stars and maybe even a few others that could have argued for it on a team that's going to lose 90 games. I mean, that's ridiculous. So that's a positive in terms of building up for the future. And you do need to evaluate, are they more valuable to you than somewhere else? And if Jacob Stallings comes out next year and just flat out sucks and the pitching staff and him end up arguing and everything just goes completely awry, then you move him and you're going to get similar value probably than what you would. I mean, it's not like he's ever going to bring a blockbuster. The comment, I'll leave you with this, the comments that Ben Cherington made just a day or so ago, I think are perfect in terms of the draft and even trades. And he said, I've been at this a while. I never realized that when I make a trade and bring a guy back or draft somebody, that I have to have it be a Hall of Famer in order to be successful. Because that's what seemingly fans want. We talked about it through the draft. Only Griffey and Chipper Jones in terms of first-round picks are going to be in Cooperstown. You're looking at trades. Not all of them go to the Hall of Fame, even on pennant winners. But if they can help you, it still can be successful. You've got to evaluate each thing individually. And it almost seems like him saying that because he's not been incredibly open, even though we know what he's doing. Maybe he's almost frustrated with the fans and some reaction they're seeing, because it does appear that nobody wants to give any W's on any of these moves, even if they're quality, and they just look at the record of the team and what happened 10 years ago, or they broke up 2015 too early. Yeah, none of that's Ben Cherington's fault. So we will see.
I like where Sherrington's going here. I do. I like all his moves, his trades, some of the off the radar free agents that he's picked up as far as minor league free agents that have turned into something like Gamble, Anderson. There's a couple other guys. And his draft so far, if you look at who they brought in last year, Baseball America has them as the number 4 system team in this.
And that's incredible, because that system was bare even just a few years ago. Bare. And that got to go credit to the executive. So again, they're not going to be a playoff team next year, probably not the year after that, but we will see what happens in the future. And I think he knew he had to be there for the long haul. Mic'd up, Mike Vukovic and Mike Osti, of course, presented by Martin Lawn Services, 412-849-5894. We are going to close up shop here with, weirdly, the headline story out of all of these, even though it wasn't a headline story for this show. It seemingly is in terms of conversation on social. Devin Bush, because he's all over social, tweeting up a storm. He now says that what I even speculated on, that the Steelers were aware of it and were going to at least talk to him. I didn't think a punishment would actually occur, but he's claiming, and the Steelers have not corroborated this, so I want to get this out there. We don't know if he's just making something up or trolling. Could be. But he is claiming that he was talked to. That makes sense. And would then put on a 2-tweet minimum. And he went over that yesterday, so he claims he was fined and he only can tweet twice in a day and needs to be careful what he tweets. I'm assuming they don't want videos of cats falling to their death and commentary in which you find that hilarious. I'm imagining they're going to say that tweet's not going to work. What are your thoughts? Do you believe he really was talked to and was punished and has a 2-tweet minimum, is going to be fine if he tweets more than twice? Or is that him also trying to be a clown on Twitter? And can he handle himself all season? If that's a mandate, I have no confidence he can get that done. He's going to go broke, because he certainly can't tweet only twice in a day. He tweeted 7 times yesterday.
No, there's not a chance in hell. That's just not. He's doing it almost to make fun of people that I think say that he should be disciplined by the Steelers. Right. I think he's trying to just say in a weird way, say, okay, yeah, they're gonna now they got me. You guys won. They slapped my hand. They fined me. I'm in trouble now. Right. Like, just the fact that he tweeted, would you say 7 or 9 times after saying that?
Two of his tweets were about the punishment. Then he tweeted again about Bitcoin.
He's basically making fun, and unfortunately for I guess fortunately for us in the media, it'll give us entertainment in some ways to talk about. Right. But for the Steelers as an organization, this is just another example. Hopefully maybe when the season starts and business really starts in training camp, that, the old Devin Bush that we knew for at least 2 years reappears, and this clown act goes away. But if not, then it's going to be another long year. And unfortunately that, the Steelers will have long-term problems as far as another member of their organization that cares more about their brand than about winning.
Yeah, and I think the overlying theme of this show, as much as many of these fan bases we've discussed and we cover, regardless of whether it's reasonable, they don't want to hear excuses. They just all of a sudden want things to turn around and get back to glory. I think Steeler fans don't want to hear any excuses of he's going through this, or he's going to turn this around, or all of a sudden he won't go to this point. He won't be Antonio Brown. Once they see someone tweeting up a storm and saying, watch this, and talking about Bitcoin and TikTok, there's going to be a whole contingent of Steeler fans that are immediately going to get concerned, immediately going to roll their eyes. And I've seen this. Make this clear. He is in his third year. They traded up to get him. He's an incredible stud out of Michigan. He was a beast. The Steelers love having him. He fits in. He's part of the future. I did a show when he was drafted that he could be part of the future in terms of the face of this franchise outside of TJ Watt. That was before his contract was re-signed, but still he certainly could be that guy. He's very young, very, very good, and they need him on that defense after losing some pieces. He was hurt last year. Imagine adding him. But there already are some that I'm seeing. They're saying trade him, get value for him. His value is really, really high. They're not going to do it, but that just shows you fans are sick of seeing this. That the second they see this, the second reply I got a minute when I said that was, he's going to grow a blue mustache next. That's alluding to Antonio Brown. Like, people are, he's not going to go to that level, I don't believe. I don't think he's going to throw furniture off a balcony and almost kill a toddler, because Antonio Brown almost killed someone. That actually happened. But this still isn't good. And it doesn't make anyone feel good. I hope they did talk to him. I believe they talked to him. I don't believe that anything else happened, because I will say this is how we'll know it's true. If they put a 2-tweet mandate on him and fined him for tweeting more than twice, the NFLPA would go ballistic. I don't think you can even do that. So I don't know if I believe that happened, but I do believe he was spoken to. I'm sure they talked to him and are aware of what's going on and said, hey, you got the cat video, we got to not do that. Things like that, I think they would imagine they would like to ring in. But again, I would recommend following his Twitter account. It's pretty lit over there. And yeah, and I think also what's most disappointing, that I said this on my show too, is this is supposed to be the calm before training camp storm. The players don't have to be anywhere. It's okay to go on vacation or to even sit home. That this is the time to do that for Devin Bush. And he's creating a storm before it needs to be there and putting more stress on himself when no one's going to bother him. Like, if you don't want covered, if you don't want messed with, if you don't want talked about, this is it. This 2 weeks. No one would bring you up if you just stay off Twitter for a day. So we'll see how many tweets today, because the 2-tweet mandate, we'll see how many he throws up there today. He's definitely 0 for 1 on the mandate.
Yeah, the other thing that I wanted to touch upon is the thing that the Steelers lack, and I know I talked about Mike Tomlin and the Rooneys and the Colberts, but at some point there's somebody within the Steelers locker room has to, not
Cam
just
Hayward,
not for just Devin Bush, but this has been years. This is where it's one thing if your head coach says it, and you touched upon it. Mike Tomlin, I think, likes to come across as a player's coach. But there has to be somebody within the team that puts an end to this and gets up these guys' ass and just.
You would think Cam Hayward would do it. He's such an old school Steeler. You think he would go in there and say, "I'm not dealing with this anymore." But
I don't know. It comes to a point where somebody has to do that. I think there's a lot of personalities that that's not who they are, and unfortunately, that they need somebody. They need I don't know who, but they need a guy that would put an end to it, and if not, there would be problems. And unfortunately, the Steelers don't appear to have that type. And I also think that causes friction on a team. Some guys that just don't like to deal with that stuff,
It's
David
split. The
Castros.
locker room gets split.
Yeah, exactly. Because guys see that and they probably don't say anything, but they're raising their eyes and say, "Oh God, here we go again."
You just would think that Vince Williams returning and Cam Hayward being there, Ben, even though he's maybe not as vocal with the team, Joe Hayden. I can name guys that are veterans that would be respected. That I feel like if you go in the locker room after a game and somebody dances on a logo and they lose by 20, instead of Cam Hayward, because I've been in there, instead of him being a little bit down in the dumps and saying, "Hey, we got to be better," and not making excuses, etc. If he'd walk in there, take a table, throw it against the wall, I think that would maybe open some eyes a little bit more than what's going on, because that I have not seen. They have the fire, they're team leaders for sure, they're great people. I've not seen that anger, and maybe we wouldn't be allowed in there then, of course. But that needs to occur. We'll wait to get in the locker room if you're going to throw a table, because that might actually happen. That might send a message to Juju, hey, yeah, it's my fault we lost 2. We're a team, but I'm not going to go ahead and be celebrating the loss. So that might be something. That'll do it for this show here. Of course, a lot going on, a lot more to touch on. Head over to all those sites for all that coverage and so much more. And of course, subscribe to this channel to get notifications when this show or anything that gets released here on this channel goes up, including a Devin Bush video that will be up there today, where he talks about what he's focusing on this offseason, which is semi-funny to what he then would do a week after he said these comments in this video. Mike Vakovic and Mike Oster here, mic'd up, presented by Martin Lawn